When it comes to processing data, the computer does all of the work. However, it needs help. Input, which is data or instructions, must be entered into the computer and then stored temporarily or permanently on a storage media device. To turn the data into information, it must be processed. The CPU processes the data. After the data is processed, it is presented to you through an output device. In order for data to be entered into the computer, we have standard input devices and specialized input devices. The two that we use the most would be keyboards and mice. We use keyboards to enter in text and numbers. Now this is an example of a standard keyboard, but there are several different types. There are ergonomic keyboards, which people use that kind of fits nicely around your wrist and your fingers so that you don't get carpal tunnel syndrome. There are wireless keyboards, so you can move it around without having any cords attached. There are specialized keyboards, something that you might find maybe in a fast food restaurant, so each key might represent a different food item. There's also keyboards that provide biometric fingerprint reading, such as something similar to the new iPhone 5S or the 6, where you can place your finger on the button and it reads your fingerprint. The biometric fingerprint reader adds added security. There are also foldable or flexible keyboards that some people use for portability. Now we also use mice, which is a pointing device. A pointing device is an input device you use to position the pointer on the screen. An older model mouse was called a mechanical mouse. It had a ball similar to this one up here, but it was on the bottom of the mouse. So as you moved the mouse around, the ball would move around. And you really needed a mouse pad in order to use that so that it would ensure that the ball would actually move. We also have an Optomechanical mouse, which is basically the same as a mechanical mouse, but it uses optical sensors to detect the motion of the ball. There are optical mice. An optical mice uses a laser, so rather than having the ball under the mouse, it's a red laser, and it detects the mouse's movement. There are wireless mice, which you can see we use a little USB drive, so it connects the two. Here is the Trackball Mouse, which I said was basically like an upside down mechanical mouse because the ball is on the top instead of the bottom. We have a radio frequency mouse, which is kind of similar to a wireless mouse, but it uses radio frequency instead of infrared waves. And then we also have a foldable mouse. We use mice by pointing, clicking, dragging, double-clicking, triple-clicking, right-clicking, and so on and so on. Each of these actions provides a different result. Now, what do we use to point when we don't have a mouse? So, for instance, we're on a laptop. Sometimes laptop keyboards could have a ball similar to this, so we put a trackball somewhere on a keyboard. Sometimes we have track pads, similar to the laptops at Good Counsel. You have the pad where you move your finger around and the mouse moves around. Sometimes there is a tiny little pointing stick that is right in the middle of the keypad on a laptop. And when you move that around, the pointer also moves around. In addition to keyboards and pointing devices, we're also able to enter in audio as input. So we use microphones for things like that. More specialized types of input devices include scanners, like barcode scanners, something that you might see at a grocery store. We've got touchscreen displays, which are actually common now in some laptop computers. And there are game controllers, such as joysticks and wheels. Now, some of these specialized input devices weren't just created to make our lives easier. Think about people who might be physically challenged. Like some keyboards can be operated with one hand or possibly with your feet. Maybe a joystick computer mouse can be operated with lips or chins. Maybe voice input devices allow visually impaired, blind, or physically challenged people to more easily interact with the computers. Once our data has been input and processed into something useful, it's called output. Examples of output could be printed text, spoken words, music, pictures, video, and graphics. The most common output devices are monitors and printers. Old school monitors didn't look like this. The old school ones were like a big box that would sit on your desk. They were called cathode ray tubes, or CRT monitors. We are used to these kinds of monitors where they're a flat panel. Then we have LCD panels, which stands for liquid crystal displays. And then there's also a gas plasma display. These monitors were usually produced in widescreen sizes. We very rarely would ever find anybody with an old CRT monitor sitting on their desk. Printers produce a paper copy or hard copy of processing results. Whenever we print something out, we always call it a hard copy because it's permanent. When selecting a printer, you want to consider the following features. You have speed, which is measured in pages per minute. And you've got print quality, which is measured in dots per inch, DPI. And then, of course, you have price. So you really have to think about why you're using your printer. Are you using it at the office to print out hundreds of pages of documents? Then speed's going to be your priority. If you're a photographer and you want to print out some excellent quality pictures, you're gonna pay attention to the DPI. As far as printers go, there are inkjet and there are laserjet. An inkjet printer provides good quality color printing where nozzles actually squirt ink as they pass over the media. Laser printers, however, they produce the images using the same technology as a copy machine. The image is made with this powdery substance called toner. It's not ink. In addition to printers, we also have speakers as an output device. Headphones, they generate sound. Now these first three, they're pretty standard output devices. But of course there are specialized output devices as well. A projector is specialized. A fax machine, a multifunction printer, which would be a printer that does printing, scanning, copying, and faxing. There are even specialized printers, let's say for just printing labels or postage. Just like we have input devices for physically challenged, we also have output devices. Now these devices include something like a screen magnifier. This makes it so the screen looks larger for those who might have a hard time seeing it. There are screen readers that will actually read what is on your screen in case you can't see it at all. There are also voice synthesizers, which is a speech synthesis in the computer-generated simulation of human speech.